Okay, I'm going to show you today how to graph, or not how to graph, but how to get an equation when you're given 2 points and we want to make a line through there just to review that a little bit and show you how that's done. So on here, we're just going to go ahead and take a look at this. We're just going to do one example here through 5, 7, and 2, 3. We're going to put a line through those two. And so what we'll need to do any line, you need a slope and you need your y-intercept. So on here, you can plot the 2 points here, which I've done just using Desmos, just typed them in there. And we could just count up and find the slope. Notice 1, 2, 3, 4 on the vertical part, that's the rise. 3 is the run, and it has a positive slope. So I already know that the slope is 4/3, right? So we could go in here and I could say, well, that's the slope is 4/3 x. And I see, well, because the slope we put in front of x, and it doesn't quite line up there. I would need some y-intercept, right? We could go through guess and checking. That's not the best way, but to kind of get an estimate, here we could just add a slider. And, I could zoom in a little bit here, and then we could see, I know it's got to be somewhere between 0, because that was a little too low. This is a little too high at 1, so it's got to be somewhere in between 0 and 1. I'm just going to hit enter, and we can kind of slide that around until that lines up pretty close right there, about 0.32, which is that super accurate? Is it exactly there? Maybe it's not going right through the middle, but at least I have an estimate, 0.32. So we'll go through how to algebraically find that as well, right? We want to be able to figure out the y-intercept. So here we're just going to go ahead and do a little bit of math on there. Your example 5, 7. So again, if you didn't graph that, you could figure out, okay, hey, for slope, maybe that's step 1, right? We want to find slope. Let's see, find slope. And so that's what we'll do here. We've got a rise, which was the 7 minus 3, right? Because those are the y values, 7 minus 3. We could just do that purely algebraically, and the run being 5 minus 2, because those are the two x values, which that's equal to 3, which means that our slope is equal to, and let me, you guys did this already, new equation here, or if you're not sure, we can put an equation right in there. So I'm going to make it look like a nice fraction and put 4/3 there, because that's my slope, right? And then we got step 2 is to find the y-intercept. Put that in there, right? So here I'm just going to put, you can use either point that you want to do. It doesn't actually matter in there. So I'm going to make 2 options here. We'll put a row below here as well. So we can either use the 0.57, or we can use the 0.2/3. All right, we can use either one of those there. That would be perfectly fine. So I'm going to use the 0.57. Okay, again, this is an x value first. 5 is the x value, 7 is the y value. So I'm just going to plug that in. I know that the equation has to be some form of like y equals, and it just keeps autocorrecting, mx plus b, right? So in here, I know the m value, and I have a y value and an x value. You can plug those in and then solve for b. So in this case here, we would put in, okay, our y value is 7. I'm going to put this as an equation here. So 7 equals our slope m, that's 4/3. So I'm going to put our fraction is 4/3, and then times x, right? So I'm just going to put times, so that makes it look nice. Times x, our x value in this case is 5. And then we got plus some b value in here. And then we just kind of go through and evaluate that a little bit, right? We can take 4/3 times 5. That's not too bad, because all we really need to do is 4 times 5. I suppose that's 20/3 plus some b value. And then we would solve for b by subtracting that away. We'd have 7 minus, that fraction of 20/3, and that's equal to b. And if we work that out, make them common denominators. 7 is the same as 21/3, and then we subtract that out. So 7 is the same as 21/3. We're subtracting, there we go, 20/3. And so we get our b value should be equal to, if we work that out, I suppose 1/3, right? So there we would know that our y-intercept is 1/3 in that case. We do the same thing would happen if we use 2/3. Again, we have y equals mx plus b, except now I'm just plugging in slightly different numbers, but we'll end up with the same result down here at the end. So again, here I would now, the y value is 3, the m value didn't change, that's still 4/3, right? That's still our fraction, 4/3 times, whoops, times our x value, which is 2, and then plus, well, we know the b value should be 1/3, but if we hadn't done that, we wouldn't know what it is. And then we just work that out again, right? Same type of thing, we could multiply the fractions. That's going to be 4 times 2, which is 8/3 plus b, and then we just subtract that over. I'm going to change that. 3 is the same as, whoops, a fraction, so I put that 3 is the same as 9/3, so I'm going to update the denominators right away, and then we would subtract that 8/3 over, and I think most of you guys can kind of see where that's going right now, right, because we subtracted this 8/3 from 3, and you can see, oh, common denominators, 9 minus 8 is 1, denominators 3. So we end up there with the exact same answer there. B is 1/3. And so then our final step, which is the easiest step of all, step 3, write the equation, right? So we want to write that equation down. And so that equation, if you want to make it look fancy, you can. So y equals, I'm going to make it look fancy with our 4/3 x plus 1/3, right? Whoops, let me put that on the denominator there. Now, if you didn't want to make it look fancy, you could also just type it in here, y equals 4/3, 3 keys not working, 4/3 x plus 1/3 for the 1/3. And just to make sure that that worked out, we can pop back over here into Desmos. It said 0.32, which was not exactly right, because we know that 1/3, if we check that as 0.3333, repeated forever and ever. So I could go back up here, maybe I'd eliminate this b value and say, okay, let's put 1/3 in there, and that lines up exactly like we predicted that it would. So you can do that with either point. You just have to find the slope, find the y-intercept, and then write the full equation down. So I'll leave this up here in case you need to, this will just be in your worksheet for the rest of that.